Welcome back to another episode of Sky's the Limit podcast. I'm your host, Mike Doherty, and today we have Brian, who is the CEO and founder of Tax Sale Resource, an online platform and database for real estate investors to find properties throughout the country that are going through tax sales. I, as an investor, along with my business partner, Ryan, are genuinely curious how this all works. So really happy to have you on here, Brian. Thank you. And with that, let's get into exactly what tax sale resource is, when you found it, and what you guys are up to today.
Yeah, well, I guess thanks for having me, Michael. Happy to be here. Definitely want to share as much information as I can on this space. So I guess dive right in.
Let's dive right in. So tell all the listeners what tax sale resource is and what you can offer to other investors. A lot of our investors are a lot of our listeners, are either just starting real estate investing, maybe have limited cash. So finding a great deal is probably utmost importance to them. Some people have already a couple deals under their belt. So we have listeners from all kind of walks of life. But why don't you walk us through what tax sale resource is? That you obviously found a need for this space. You guys have grown tremendously from the time you started. So kind of walk us through from the time you started to what you look like now.
Yeah, so really got started, I'd say, on the wrong side of the tax sale world. I was flipping properties, kind of as a side gig, working a standard 9 to 5 job in engineering, and this is in 2007, 2008, and was basically got upside down. I think many people have a similar story that lived through the last Great Recession of 2008, but we were doing that in Montana. I mean, Montana is a really unique process where every potential investor that wants to buy your tax lien, Montana is a tax lien state. They have to send a certified letter, to the homeowner. And so I got, 40 or so certified letters, basically, various, I'll say, threatening language, like you could lose your home through this process, right? At the time, I was like, holy crap, what is this? What is this tax lien thing? Right or wrong, it definitely got me looking and curious enough in the tax liens that I eventually figured out, like, this is a legit thing. These do get sold. You can make money doing this, and started buying tax liens on a small scale. I'll say a fund, but it was really some family friends type money. But what I quickly realized is there was no central location of when, where, and what properties are in these auctions. They're public auctions. Anybody can attend them. But just finding out when, where these auctions were, that was a task in itself. So I ended up building a website. At the time, it was called taxliendatabase.com. It was real original. And it was really just an internal tool for me and a couple of our employees to share information back and forth. I was living in Arizona; they were living in Montana, and we didn't have Google Drive, OneDrive. I mean, there's many Dropbox. There's so many better tools today than what we had at the time. I don't know that the website would have ever come to be if I had started that process today versus then. But anyway, I built this website for internal use. I was showing it to a guy at a conference in Orlando in 2009, and he said, "You know what? I bet if you made this public, charged as a subscription for it, you might make some revenue, enough revenue to cover some of your overhead." I said, "That sounds great." Went about doing that and rebranded it as Tax Sale Resources, which is what we are today. And have since grown that. Really, within 2 years, it way outweighed the revenue I was making on the direct investment side of buying tax liens. So I gave up buying tax liens, and we became, really, to my knowledge, the largest aggregator of tax liens and tax deed auctions and everything in the middle for all 50 states, and cover about 9,000 auctions a year. 1.5 to $2 million properties annually, and so it's grown since then from just a data provider, right? Of, here's a calendar of upcoming auctions. Here's a list of the properties. Right now, there's an online platform to see those properties. Similar to like a Zillow style platform. People familiar with that. And then we also have a portfolio management platform. We also now have a lending branch, which is a whole separate conversation. We can dive down that rabbit hole, because tax sales in general is a very cash intensive space. And so I'm engineer by trade, I guess, if you want to consider that. I like big juicy problems. I like solving those problems, and so kind of as we come across these problems, we figure out the solutions to help investors. So today, what tax sale resources is much more than just the platform, although that's still a key component, and the data that drives that platform. There's I like to think of it as it's all of the resources you need in order to be successful in this space. We're not an educator. There are certainly lots of educators, some great ones, some not so great ones out there that are teaching how to invest in the space, and that's not what we do. I guess to clarify that, but once you know what you're doing, the resources and tools that you need to be successful, that's exactly what tax sale resources is.
Yeah, wow. So you are essentially a one-stop shop for real estate investors to have tax lien sales at their fingertips rather than spending the hours that it can take and frankly will probably take to um, find where they will be within your state. You're kind of you're analyzing all of those and providing like a one click away, so to speak, um, valuable resource. And you most likely charge a monthly subscription for that, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, nothing we're doing is like highly like classified, crazy, like
Right.
unique. I mean, you can go to any of these municipalities or counties or we call them jurisdictions that are hosting the auction. You can get a list of the parcel numbers. You can look up that information. Almost every county in the country now has a assessor site, and you can look up that information. But doing that for 10, 15, 50 properties isn't so bad, right? There's some of these auctions that are 60,000 properties. And so doing that, I'll call the old school process is could be, very frustrating. And, me personally like to spend my time doing other things as well. And so
Yeah.
that's really the unique thing is it's aggregated across not just a county, right? It's across the whole state, really across the whole country. So if you want to, an example would be if you want to go find specific, commercial properties going up to a tax deed auction across all 50 states, right? There might be, you know, 90,000 total properties going up for auction nationwide today, but there might be 10 that meet that criteria, and you can go put that criteria in and get those 10, in the matter of
Yeah.
seconds versus,
Ex-
good luck doing that manually.
It really just comes down to time value of money, right? Is it worth it to me to trade my time to call each county, get a list of the properties, and then go figure out where they're going to be and line up my day accordingly? Or am I an active W-2 or 1099 worker or employee where I'm working 9 to 5 and I want to build up my rental portfolio and I have a little bit of disposable capital to deploy to a resource like tax sale resources and kind of have that list ready to go when I get out of work. Like in essence, could I go build, renovate my bathroom through YouTube and DIY? Yeah, I probably could, right? It would take me probably a good couple months and a lot of, blood, sweat, and tears, or I could just hire a contractor, come here, do this podcast, spend my day trying to make money to, if I'm worth $75 an hour and I can find a contractor for $40, $50 an hour, that would be a good use of my time and money. So I think of this as no different really.
You
Yeah.
nailed it, right? Really does come down to what people value their time. I mean, one person doing that. I mean, I can't imagine anybody individually being able to do that. We have a team of 10 plus people that's their full-time job is just monitoring counties and municipalities for auctions just to put it all together, right? So trying to do all of that yourself, right? Good luck, right? Now, if you want to do like just the county you're in, that could be doable depending on the
Mm-hmm.
county. I mean, some counties have one sale a month, right? There are 10 to 50 properties, that's doable, right? Cook County is probably the largest, which is Chicago, largest auction. They have, typically once a year, it's 60,000 plus parcels in that one auction. So even if you did have full time to do that, like who wants to do that, right?
Right.
So yes, time value money is exactly what it boils down to. Just like
So now, and I'm sure all this is available on your website. I'm just genuinely curious as an active investor. There's a lot of different platforms people utilize to try to find deals, whether that's partnering with brokers, you know, uh, there's a you could do direct mail postcards, you could do SEO. I have never dived into looking to buy tax liens on properties. So for a service like yours, that's kind of gonna, neatly provide it all, laid out for me, so to speak, and then all I have to do is kind of do research and show up nonetheless. What does a monthly service or subscription look like for that?
Well, I'd say the standard, there's a few different levels, right? The entry level, right, is $97 a month, or you can pay an annual and get roughly 50% off if you want to do that. Now, I'll be the first to tell folks, if you don't know what you're doing, don't go waste your money subscribing quite yet, right?
Right.
Go do. There's a lot of educators, resources out there, and actually, for free, you can go to our website. Has a blog and I interview attorneys and different professionals across the country, trying to tell like the real story of how does New Jersey work, how does Texas work, how does Florida, because each state works a little different. And so I interview those folks and make that interview, consider it a free hour and a half of attorney time, right? That you could pay an attorney to get that information or go listen to it. Right now, it is not yeah, riveting stuff, right? You're talking like, what does this statute mean? What's this process? How long does this take, right? And so I would say don't go listen to it right before bed. You probably won't retain a whole lot. You'll be sleeping real quick. But if you want, you need to learn first what you're doing. Once you know what you're doing, or at least have a good idea of what you're going to do, then subscribing would make sense. But up until that point, I like to say we provide all the tools. We don't necessarily provide the education, at least from a paid standpoint. You can go find a lot of that stuff in our blog and we have a podcast and we have webinars and all that. You can educate yourself. But we're not a coach, I guess is I think
Right.
maybe a misconception some people have.
Yeah, no, makes sense. So your day right now is filled. This is your baby. This is your company. So have you taken a step back? You said you used to flip houses. Have you taken a step back from that just to focus on building the business? Or are you still utilizing your own platform to acquire more rental portfolios or fix and flips? Are you doing anything in conjunction with the tax sale resource company?
Yes, yeah. So kind of, I'd say we're probably one of the larger tax deed buyers in a unique way, because when we recognized, talking to customers, really this is 2017, 18, that their biggest need is cash, right? Of these auctions typically occur at a date, and you got to have cash to the treasurer by 5 p.m. that day, right? Sometimes it's by the next day. In a rare instance, you got to have it within a week, right? And every once in a great while, they might be able to let you, stretch that out over 30 days. But in all cases, you have to have cash, and you're not going to get title insurance. So going to a bank to get that financing is kind of a non-starter. And so recognizing that, we tried to work with a bank to get a financial product rolled out for our customers. Ended up not working for various reasons, but we took that opportunity and said, hey, we've done all this research. The bank actually loved the model. They just couldn't get past it, regulatory speaking. And so we launched a fund called Mountain North Capital. And essentially, Mountain North Capital is a capital partner for local tax deed investors. So we work with tax deed investors in 12 different states today. Well, not that we're isolated to those 12 states, but where we are the ones that are providing the capital to those auctions. So they're doing all the work to find the deal. We're providing the capital, and then it's a profit share structure. We're not technically a lender. We're truly a capital partner. And so there's really two sides of our business today. Taxel Resources is really the data analytics software platform provider. Mountain North Capital is the fund providing the capital to folks to scale their business. Because really the customers that utilize our resources the most are typically, I'll say, they're real estate investors. There's not really a tax deed or just a tax lien event. It's just a unique way, like you said, of getting and finding a deal, right, to get into real estate. And then once you own the real estate, you have your standard model of what you're going to do with it. And so Mountain Capital is the funding mechanism for how to acquire more tax deeds once you've found the property and maybe used up whatever internal capital you have. So yes, between those two, that is definitely keeping me and our team more than occupied at this point.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. That's a really smart integration into your business. Is, the first step is, okay, let's find the deal. Now I found, I'm with Tax Sale Resources. They help me find the deal. Oh, but now I have to come up with the cash to buy it, and I'm just short. Oh, wait, now I can partner with them, truly partner with them, not just debt partners, but equity partners with them. And it's good for you on your end because now you get a piece of every deal, right? You're so yeah, it's we're I mean, this is all, we didn't talk about this prior, so my wheels are turning as we're speaking. It's really cool. So where do you see yourself? I guess both from an investor standpoint and from tax sale resource, where do you see both those going?
Yeah, well, I think Taxo Resources, we're continuing to develop out, like I'll say, the analytic part of the platform. That it's one thing to know, when the auctions are, where they're occurring, right, and the list of properties. But the next level that we're taking it to is applying some algorithms to which properties are going to sell for what price, right? And so where are truly those good deals? And so those are some analytics that we're doing and adding. Right, right now it's only in our, like, when we partner with folks within our, on the capital side, then we also enable them with that level of a tool. That's a very powerful tool to know, hey, of the 90,000 properties out there, here's the ones that are going to sell at a really good discount. And so knowing that is a very key piece of information. So on that side, that's where we're focused, is really integrating, right, the sexy latest term, right, is AI, right, increment, implementing AI into that platform in order to enable folks, right, with that information so they can do more buying, right. It's I listened to a great podcast, and they'd like to term it like, work on the recipe for your beer. Don't worry about all the other logistics. And so if your recipe for beer is buying a property, turning it into a rental, right? Let us help you find the property to buy and turn into a rental. Because that, you can do what you do best, which is, managing the local contractors, right? Managing the renters, right? Do that piece of it. Now on the capital side, we're roughly a $30-ish million fund at this point. We do think there's significant growth on that side, and so we're certainly looking for more partners in more areas to do that. And I think that'll keep us, certainly between those two are going to keep us occupied for
Yeah,
foreseeable future.
that's amazing. Well done. Congrats on all your success. It's truly impressive. One question I like to ask all of our guests is, what does your day to day look like? And I know as an entrepreneur and investor, every day, no day is the same. But I'm just genuinely curious, selfishly, about different practices people utilize throughout their day to be productive. Time is money, so how are you structuring your day to, I guess, best optimize it? So if you could walk me through from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, what does your day to day look like? You work out in the morning? Do you maybe take some time to read some books, listen to podcasts in the morning? I'm sure some family time in there somewhere. So walk me through your day.
Yeah, my day is, because I have two young kids, both of them, less than 10. And so, my morning, I work out in the evenings. And so typically my morning is get up, getting breakfast ready for the kiddos, right. And then getting them off to school. And then, I switch from, I'll say, dad mode to entrepreneur mode. In that mode, entrepreneur mode's definitely evolved over the years, right. At this point in it, I'm blessed with an amazing team, and I'm much more the visionary. I've become less and less of the integrator, and so, good or bad, I spend a lot of my time in meetings, really, suggesting ideas, solving problems, promoting our products, and answering emails. Right, so I do a whole lot of sitting, which was something that I don't recommend. Just stating what I typically do. And then I do highly value our family time. And so, from roughly 5 until, 8-ish is when the kids go to bed, is back to dad mode. Right. So whatever we're doing, whether it's, attending sporting events, making dinner, playing, getting outside, right, that's reserved for dad time. And then really get a workout in after that. And then usually it's hop back on and start answering, some of those questions and emails I didn't get to throughout the day. And that is pretty much Monday through Friday. Weekends
Yep.
are typically reserved for mostly family time. I try to turn work off on the weekends, which
Yep.
I'm blessed to be able to do. Not everybody can do that. I certainly had probably 10 years of not having any weekends, right? As probably most entrepreneurs can attest to, right? You go through that grind and that chasm. And at this point, you know, working on things, right? I'm always trying to not just work on the business, but work on, personally, work on family, right? What can I do better to improve? And so there's a portion of every day that's toward that growth, right? So there's always time. Right now, it's a lot of in the car to and from the office, right? While I'm working out, of listening to podcasts, listening to books, listening to ways of making, me, my health, my family, and my business better. And so there's probably an hour and a half of that, mixed in there amongst everything else on a daily basis.
Yeah. You when you started going through your day, you mentioned two things: a visionary and integrator. Was that from a book you might have read called Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman and I think Mark Winters? Have you read that book?
Yeah, yes, I have. I'm in his organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. But yes, they mention it in Rocket Fuel, and then it's used within the EOS Entrepreneur Operating System a lot, right? And for those that aren't familiar with what we're talking about, there's the there's the Steve Jobs, right, and then you've got Wozniak, right? So you got the guy that has the ideas, right, and then you got the guys that actually know how to build the stuff, right? So Wozniak was the integrator, Steve was the visionary, to kind of put it in terms
Yep.
that more can relate to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of McDonald's is no different. I mean, they quoted so many different examples. Really, I'm actually reading it as we speak, so that's why both those words kind of like stuck out to me. But no, it's an amazing what you've accomplished so far. Any advice for the listeners? If you kind of had to start all over, anything you do different as far as building a rental portfolio, or just kind of advice as being your own entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I'd say high level, right, is persistence. I think it's easy to come up with an idea. It's very hard to implement it, and even harder to see the success from it. And there's certainly exceptions to that where I don't know if it's luck, right? There's lots of definitions of luck, but some people come up with the idea, integrate it, and it's like a moonshot scenario from day one, and they succeed in that. That's not normal, right? At least not in my experience. It's been okay. Here's the idea. Let's integrate it. You learn a lot. You learn what you didn't know. You come across roadblock after roadblock, and you got to be really persistent for a long time till you finally see some of the fruit from that labor. But if it were easy, then everybody would be doing the same thing. And so figuring out, to me, every opportunity where we failed and learned something and overcame an obstacle is just why we're maybe a little more successful than everyone else, is because it is hard.
Right.
But persistence is definitely my big recommendation. The other one that comes to mind right now is for those that aren't utilizing it. It is amazing the different tools that AI tools that are out there, and I feel like a guy mentioned this to me the other day. We're now in like AI saturation. There's so many options, so many companies, so many tools out there. Like, how do you choose? I don't know. I have no recommendations on that. But even in real estate, just simple things of asking ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok, right? Asking it simple questions and asking that same question, prompting it to tell you from different perspective. Like, you are an attorney, you are paralegal, you are a real estate expert, you're a rental manager, right? It's amazing the information that you get. So if I had that tool, right, 10, 15 years ago when I got started, boy, would it be a different scenario. Because I feel like the biggest thing AI has done is totally made the smart friend obsolete, right? You don't have to necessarily get on a call with an attorney. You do, right, to get the final answer, but you can have a conversation with these things and learn about how different models work before you ever put a dollar out there. It's incredible. And so if you are in real estate and you can't think of how to implement AI, think harder, because there's a lot of ways
Right.
to do it and do it successfully.
Really cool. Well, Brian, I appreciate your time. I know you're a busy entrepreneur, so we'll stop there. Thank you again. Congrats on all your success with the tax sale resource. We'll be sure to link your website in the show notes for anyone that wants to check you out. I know I'll be looking into it. I think that's a great tool for a lot of investors like myself. And with that, thank you again for all your listeners out there. Be sure to like, subscribe if you like what you heard today at Sky's the Limit. We're on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Thanks all for listening. Take care. Thank you for watching Sky's the Limit. We're always releasing new real estate content, so if there's something you want to hear, be sure to leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.